a list of 30 cities that could be underwater by the year 2060. This is according to NOAA's research. As we know, most cities on the coast, east and west, and they're not just 30 cities, there's a lot more, were put there because of the fact that they needed ports and they needed to be close to rivers. And the fact is that most of the cities that are on east and west coasts of North America, we're not only talking about the US, but in this case we are, this is a worldwide thing, they will be underwater. And even more so by the year 2100. Okay, so 2060, that's only 40 years from now. And it's frightening when you take into account what we've already been through since last spring with the floods inundating the United States, the snow, the extreme weather conditions. We have it ongoing now with the polar vortex again, freezing the United States. And this thing is not just in the US, it's coming across the Atlantic into the UK, into Northern Europe. The Mediterranean, thank goodness, has been somehow spared. I'm sitting talking to you from Athens, Greece, and we have 75 degrees outside. And it's 8 o'clock, it's now 6:30 in the evening. And it's just beautiful, balmy weather. I don't know, thank goodness we don't have what they're having in the rest of Europe. But we even have snowstorms across northern Africa, starting from Morocco, all the way across, and even up to Kashmir in India. We just reported yesterday that the apple orchards were not able to harvest their apples. Not only that, but 60% of the apple trees have been flattened by the weight of the snow up there. They lost 60% of their trees. It's not just that they lost their harvest. It takes years for apple trees to grow big enough to produce apples. Can you imagine? This is terrible. It's not just the flooding, it's the whole condition of the change in the weather. So the global warming has brought in severe winter conditions because it's affected the Gulf Stream current, and that means that the cold air from the north comes down a lot lower. Anyway, we have 30 cities from what the Climate Central is telling us, because of the Antarctic melt. The Antarctic, and even more so the Arctic, is melting so much. The Arctic is melting so much that they'll be able to. They're basically vying as to who's going to have sovereignty over those waters, because they'll be able to have their ships journeying through the North Pole waters, because they'll be open to sea traffic. Which will make things go much faster from North America, for example, to Asia, or the Russian continent, the Russian area, ports of Russia. Now, Antarctica is melting 3 times as fast as it did in 2007, and global sea levels could rise by an estimated 8 feet by the year 2100. Okay, now living in on Long Island, I know that it's pretty low lying. We do have beautiful high tides there, and when it's low tide, you can see the mollusks on the pier. But we have wonderful oysters there. But the average I forgot what it was. I'm sorry, I forgot what it was. The average height of the elevation of Long Island is only about 50 feet. And we used to get a lot of flooding on the areas of the Hamptons and Brooklyn. Brooklyn used to have flooding. The Hamptons used to have flooding. Various areas towards the southwest of the island, flooding always. And this was like 30, 40 years ago. You can imagine now what it's like. Now, high tides flooding across the U.S. coasts this year may surpass what was typical flooding 20 years ago by as much as 60%. This is according to the NOAA scientists. And according to U.S. coastal cities, within the next 30 years, more than 300,000 homes, combined worth of more than $118 billion, likely to be at risk of chronic tidal flooding, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists. And the thing is that when you have a house in a flooding area, you can't get insurance for it. You just can't get insurance for it. For example, the houses that were devastated during Hurricane Sandy, most of the people didn't have flooding insurance, and they cannot, even if they rebuild them on that area, they will not get flooding insurance. The insurance companies will not give them flood insurance. I remember my youngest son was working in a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, and a lot of these people that had no more homes left because of the flooding, they had to go and rent a room in a hotel and go to work the next day. I mean, they had to sleep somewhere, take a shower, change their clothes. And there was this one woman who was an appraiser who stayed there, and she was crying to my son because they had just gotten this beautiful new townhouse in Brooklyn. And she was telling him how devastated she was because there was a yacht with its keel stuck in the middle of their master bedroom, which was on the top floor. There was a yacht on the roof of their house, sticking into their bedroom through the roof. I mean, this is, and she was crying to him, and he said, she had to say it to someone. You have to. There's such a shock, such a change in people's lives, the social upheaval that this causes, that they have to get it off their chest and tell someone, no matter who it is. She was going to talking to my son as to what was going on with their house every day because they still had to pay their mortgage. So you can understand how many problems this thing gives rise to. Anyway, the global surface temperatures monitored since the 1880s, attributed to human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. They're talking about the rising temperatures, world ice melting, sea level rise because of global warming. There will be thousands of communities around the world, coastal communities, that will be affected by this. They will be inundated by floods. A most recent assessment published in the science journal Nature ascertained that Antarctica is melting 3 times as fast as it was in 2007. So according to a study 2 years ago, if the rising carbon emissions and ice sheet loss continue at this rate, global sea levels could see a rise of 8 feet by the year 2100. Now, the Antarctic ice sheet is made up of the vast majority of our Earth's freshwater supply. If it melts, sea levels would rise about an astonishing mountain height of 200 feet. Now, any large-scale solution to the problem would need to be implemented right now, if not yesterday. Flooding is inevitable and problem is imminent, according to NOAA scientists. High tide flooding across the U.S. coastlines surpassed recently what was typical flooding 20 years ago by as much as 20%. So the 30 cities. Number 1, we'll go through them. This is on Business Insider. Secaucus, New Jersey. Population with homes at risk of flooding by 2060 is 19%, 3,092. And by the year 2100, it will be 65.8%. Then you have number 29 is St. Simons, Georgia. Population of risk flooding 2060 will be 22.9%, and by the year 2100 will be 60.1%. I'm going fast, but if you want to see, the cities near you, you can refer to the article I'll leave below in the description box. 28 is Margate City, New Jersey. Risk flooding 2060 is 55.6%, and 2100 will be 99.6%. Basically, the whole city will be underwater. Number 27, St. Helena Island, South Carolina. Population flooding risk 2060 is 16%, and 2011 will be 59%. Then you have number 26, Brigantine, New Jersey. lovely pictures that they have here. Population at risk of flooding in 2016. The land that will be underwater will be 48%. Land underwater by 2011 will be 95.9%. Then you have 25 West Ashley, South Carolina. Beautiful, beautiful pictures. Livable land underwater will be 13.7% by 2060. Livable land underwater by the year 2011 will be 42.2%. Then number 24 is Little Ferry, New Jersey. And livable land underwater by 2060 will be 75.4%. And underwater by 2100 will be 92%. And you just go on like this. Basically it's the same thing. Florida, Key Biscayne, Florida, forget that. I mean, okay. Livable land underwater by 260 will be 50.6%. Livable land that will be underwater by 2100 will be 86.3%. So you have North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas. We're going to Texas again. Livable land underwater by 2100 with 46%. Georgia, Florida, Middle Keys, Florida. Livable land underwater by 2100 will be 98.1%. Brazosport, Texas. Livable land underwater by 2100 is 70%. Ventnor City, New Jersey. Livable land underwater by 2100 is 98.9%. St. Petersburg Beach, Florida. 2100 underwater is 99.5%. It's not, they have South Carolina. I remember when I had gone to North Carolina, we had a rainstorm there. We had a worldwide meeting there. What can I tell you? Geez. First of all, we had no power in the hotel. So we were given biscuits and jam for breakfast, and just some water. That was our breakfast, and we had to be there, And then we went across this bay on this highway. We were forced to go bowling just to get out of the hotel to go someplace in another nearby city away from the coast, so we could go bowling. We could see each other's faces. And that's where we had our meeting, at the bowling alley where we were playing bowling. What can you say? And as we were driving there, the water from the sea was lapping onto the highway. And I was thinking to myself as we were in our minibus, I said, we're going to be swept into the sea and drown. That's it. This was a regular rainy rain period. And this was Hilton Head Island, North Carolina. And we stayed at the hotel there. This was, 20 years ago? So I can imagine what it is now. So it's not just these locations here. It's a lot more, I would say. Lower Keys, Florida, 97.9%. Oh, and they did have Hilton Head Island, North Carolina here. I said it was North Carolina. Forgive me. It's South Carolina, it says here. Okay, there you go. When you're traveling and you're from one airport to the other, you don't really realize where you are. You just want to get to where you're going. I'm sorry about that. And I'll leave links below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity. because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.